Hey there, really glad you're here. Myself, Megan at Fairshake, and our partners, Ohio River Valley Institute, Buckeye Environmental Network, and Frac Tracker, we have all talked with so many communities who are trying to figure out what to do about data centers. Most of the folks that we talk with are dealing with maybe rezoning practices that they didn't know about. Maybe you're hearing about land purchases or leases from neighbors or your town. Many folks are trying to understand really confusing zoning ordinances that may or may not include data center language. Maybe you're hearing the words self-generating or microgrid or hyperscale and trying to figure out exactly what that means for your day-to-day life. And maybe so many people are spending so much time trying to figure out what they can do, bringing neighbors together, showing up at council meetings, and doing incredible work to try and make sure that your concerns and ideas are really part of decisions that are going to impact where you live. The goal of the decision tree is to help you have a visual roadmap of a range of things you can do to try and either stop data center development or mitigate harm from a data center based on the situation and the state that you live in, Ohio, Pennsylvania, or West Virginia. So before we actually dive into the tree, let's think about basketball, right? Successful dynasties, the Chicago Bulls, the Las Vegas Aces, they probably share a lot of things in common, right? They have a strong team that works together. They trust each other. They also count on their fans to show up during home and away games and be loud, pack the stands, make signs, just really show up for their team. They are constantly learning, right? They're watching game film. They reflect on what went well or what didn't go well in games. They learn about their opponents and they learn from watching other teams too. Maybe they're going to change tactics based on who they're playing against or where they are in the season, right? Maybe some games they're really focused in on, honed in on defense, and in other games it makes sense to really attack offensively. And they want to make sure they have the best equipment possible, right, to help them in those games, help them at their different arenas. We found that community advocacy is really similar. So throughout the decision tree, you're going to see lots of references to sports. Talking about complex legal and policy stuff is really hard. And so we had fun using sports language as an analogy to talk about what we can do. So throughout the decision tree, you're going to see references to your team, right? Who you're working with, who are you filling your stands with? Watching game film, how can we learn about data centers in your community as well as learning from other communities? The arenas, these are the places where actual decisions are being made that you can be a part of and that you can impact with the games that you're playing. The season of your data center, and this is really the specifics of the data center that are going to influence the arenas that you're playing at, the games that you're playing at, and really whether you have gold or silver or bronze or kind of participation ribbon opportunities. And you're also going to see lots of foam fingers, 0 to 3 foam fingers that show how much of an impact you can have in that arena or decision point. So let's take a look. Throughout the decision tree, you're going to find lots of questions. If you answer those questions, it'll give you arrows that will lead you to kind of your next step or next ideas. Each path is going to end up leading you to the very beginning. So just like seasons or sports kind of never stop, right? It just moves from one season to another. Same with data center advocacy. Once you take one action or play a game in one arena, it really gives you the opportunity to learn, watch more game film, and then start over. Let's take a look. Let's pretend I was scrolling one night. I saw a post about a new data center. I don't really want it here. I'm really concerned about my energy bills going up. I'm concerned about the farmland that I live across the street from. I've heard a lot of bad stuff about diesel generators and air pollution and noise that they bring. And so I want to know what I can do. My first step is to do just what it says, to zoom in and to start here. So I will zoom in. You can either zoom in using the normal ways that you zoom in your computer, or you'll see a little sliding bar at the bottom here that allows you to zoom in really close or back up a little bit. I'll start with this first question, what's the problem? I can either talk about stronger laws to protect us from data centers in the future, or right now I'm most concerned about a specific data center in my community and I want to know what I can do. So I'm going to follow this arrow over here. I can always zoom in more if I need to, but right here it just talks me through that sports analogy that we just talked about. All right, I'm ready to jump in. Let's do this. I'm going to follow that arrow to step number 1, watching game film, finding out what's going on. When I want to focus here, again, I follow that arrow, and here I can learn how to watch game film, right? Some basic information about how data centers are developed, questions I should be asking, where I can find information, because we know that's really, really hard. And lots of our favorite resources about where I can learn more about specific types of impacts that I might be nervous about. All right, I can stay here for a long time. I can really spend time watching a lot of game film and learning as much as I can. And maybe that's where I want to stay for now. And if so, that is great. If I'm ready to keep going, I can follow the arrows back down to step 2, building my team. Here are kind of some of the beginning ways that at the very beginning of your data center work, you can really build up a strong team, right? From building relationships, having a leadership structure. We know some groups think about 501c3 or so C4, fiscal sponsorship, so some great resources there. Building up media presence and choosing goals, having community meetings, becoming part of your local government, some really great communications and messaging ideas. So lots of great ideas to build up my team, right? To build trust, to work together, to have the right people filling up the stands at this early point in our data center games. Again, I can stay here. I can spend a lot of time here. Or I can decide, nope, I'm ready to keep going. So I'm going to just keep following the arrows around. Throughout, I'm going to see little game film pieces that I can learn from other communities. And then I land at step number 3, taking a look at our season. Now we got to figure out how far along the data center is in the development in my community. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit just so I can see everything. And here we talk about being early in the development to late in the development. I think in my area, from what I understand, maybe they've got a little bit of land. I know that they're talking with council. I've seen some newspaper articles about like site plans, but that's about it. So based off that information, I'm going to guess that they're in kind of the silver medal area, right? They've announced intent to build in the area. Maybe they've purchased some land, but I haven't really seen any local approvals or state permit applications. I don't quite know where they are with financing maybe, but that's kind of what I know. Based off that best guess, I will follow this silver medal opportunity. And it's showing me that I can maybe play some defense, but I do still have lots of time to build an all-star team, lots of arenas and games I can play in, and I can get some good equipment. That's great. We'll follow that arrow down, and now it's time to play my games. So next, it leads me to kind of figuring out what type of data center is being proposed. And to answer that, I'm going to ask 3 questions. How big it is, how is it getting power, and who's building it? These questions are important because it really points to specific vulnerabilities that I can press on, as well as maybe opens up some arenas that I can play games in. In my example, I think that it's a hyperscale. It's a big, massive one. They want to build their own power source or power plants. And who's building it? It's hard to tell based off the information that I have, but I think it's a major corporate just because it's so big. But that information's kind of been kept under wraps so far. So based off of that, if it's hyperscale, I know that there's going to be lots of permitting vulnerabilities I can press on. If they're building their own power plant, there's lots of permitting vulnerabilities I can press on, and maybe some utility vulnerabilities. And if it's a major corporate, if it's a big company that's building it, there might be some financing vulnerabilities, but not quite as much as the other types of data centers. I'm just going to keep all that in mind as me and my team keep building up our strategy for the games to come. All right, I'm going to follow the arrow over to the arenas. And here I can see all of the different levers that I can press on. So these are looking at the financing vulnerabilities, the permitting vulnerabilities, right? I can think about lack of transparency. I can think about moratoriums or municipality curative amendments, zoning, community benefits, common law nuisance claims, different types of state, local, and federal permits. And throughout all of these, you're going to see the foam fingers. So how much of an impact can I have in that arena? As well as you'll see ways to find some great equipment. So in this example, I can see the list of potential permits that these facilities may need in the future to really help me figure out where do I want to spend my energy, right? Again, one foam finger being you can impact it, but maybe not have as much opportunity to impact that as some of these 3 foam finger permitting opportunities. I keep going. I see some utility vulnerabilities I can press on if I'm really worried about electric rates. And then like always, I'm just going to follow the arrows. And here I see more ways to build up my team, right? Finding relationships with experts, paying attention, right to know requests, baseline monitoring, petitions, and some great communications and messaging. I can click here for some specific, great, intense messaging guidance. And over here, we've got some issues to focus on depending on the type of data center that's being proposed. What happens next is I keep following the arrows back around. And here we get to our last step, which is kind of assessing, refining, and changing tactics. So based off of what we've learned or what just happened, we follow our arrows back to the beginning. We know that the tree is not going to answer all of your questions, but we really hope that it's going to help you get 50, 60, 70% of the way there so that you can really spend your time where it matters most, building up your team and actually playing the games. Good luck. I hope you have an amazing season, and don't hesitate to reach out. Fairshake, Ohio River Valley Institute, Buckeye Environmental Network, and Frac Tracker are all really happy to be part of your team. So reach out if there's anything we can do to help. Thank you so much. Good luck.